Don't want to arrange marriage to the local village boy? The U.S. Army is your safe haven. Controlling parents? The Army would never. U.S. Army, whoa. Hi, I'm Mariam, U.S. Army veteran, former Miss Pakistan finalist, and I currently own a successful in-home care agency here in California. More than that, I've recovered from dangerous habits and addictions and currently living the life of my dreams serving others. And I want the same for you. And if you want the same for you, please stick around. Let's be homies. Yes, I am first generation Pakistani Muslim. Yes, my parents are super overprotective. And I ran away and joined the United States Army in 2004 when it was about to be party central. And not the type of parties that you bring a charcuterie board to. No, not those kind of parties. Even with the very real fear of joining the military during wartime, this is the one biggest instrumental decision I've ever made that completely transformed my life. And even though the first 2 years of the military, I lived in a constant state of fear and panic, this was by far the best decision I've ever made in my life. So why did I join the Army? I really can't tell you exactly why. I do remember watching a commercial when I was like 5 or 6, and I want to say it was the commercial about the Marines slaying dragons. Vividly remember a billboard where there were soldiers hanging upside down, doing all kinds of drills and missions that I was like, man, one day I want to be just like that. So when I went to go pick up my best friend from the Army recruiter station, talk to the recruiter there, it just felt very logical, and that was going to be my next step. So while I was in high school, I actually received a couple academic scholarships. And as I was talking to the recruiter, I told them about how strict my family was. I don't know how it was going to swing me enlisting into the military. So the recruiter and I decided that she was going to show up to my house in civilians. And for you civilians, that means she was wearing regular clothes, not the U.S. Army soldier uniform. And she told my family that I got another scholarship, and this scholarship was to study abroad at an all-girls academy. Fortunately for me, my family really didn't pay attention to anything I did academically, because in the culture that I'm from, school and education isn't important for women in my culture, so my family never really paid attention to what I did academically. And honestly, for my scholarship ceremony, my parents didn't even show up, so they didn't even know what scholarships I had or didn't have. They just knew I had something. Couple months later, I was off to boot camp in Fort Jackson, South Carolina. Have you ever done anything that scared the daylights out of you? That something terrified you so much, but the fear of staying the same or staying in the same environment or staying in the same situation outweighed that fear? If so, tell me. I would love to hear it. Basic and advanced individual training weren't easy, but I had 18 years of discipline from my dad. He was very strict, was constantly on my case on doing the right thing, being on time, being tidy. So honestly, the discipline wasn't necessarily what was bothering me or the structure. It was the fact that I was away from home. I never spent a single night out of my 18 years away from my family, away from my mom and dad. I cried the first time I wore PTs, which is a physical training uniform, and I had to wear shorts. And I actually cried because I never in my life wore American clothes up until that point. I was very fortunate and lucky to have amazing battle buddies around me, or the girls that were in the boot camp and advanced individual training with me, that guided me and supported me. One of the other issues that I had was keeping my hair up in a bun. So I had girls in my unit that would help me braid my hair up and keep it neat and tidy, because the drill sergeants threatened to cut it off if I didn't keep it up neat and tidy. I felt very blessed to have such an amazing support group around me. The camaraderie that I felt replaced a little bit of my homesickness, not a lot, but enough to where I was able to complete boot camp and advanced individual training successfully. The bonds that I made in boot camp and AIT, advanced individual training, I still am friends with them 20 years later. They had such a huge impact on my transition from being sheltered, protected by my family, kind of almost sheltered and protected by my battle buddies and in the Army. So my very first duty station was Germany. I was one of the very few lucky ones that got stationed overseas. A majority of my class actually went on to deployment heavy bases, Washington, Georgia. I got very lucky. I got sent to Landstuhl, Germany. I did get deployed to Pakistan, ironically, to Muzaffarabad during the earthquake. My dad actually found me at the base in Muzaffarabad and visited me. I remember when he saw me, he's never seen me outside of Pakistani clothes. He saw me in uniform with his name on my chest. And this was the first time in my entire life that I saw my dad cry. He didn't even cry when my grandma passed away, his mom. I remember being terrified when they called me to tell me that my dad was at the gate. And when I went to go see him, the look of relief when he saw me, the look of pride in his eyes, I just knew right then and there that I made the right decision for me. It might have not been for him or my culture or what people thought when I had left to join the military, but at that moment, seeing the look on my dad's face, seeing those tears, I just was so proud of myself. And I just felt so much love and pride coming from my dad as well. After I came back from the deployment, I went back to Germany. I finished out my 4 years there, and then I went on to Qatar. I was in Qatar for 2 years, and I ended up not extending my enlistment. And that's where my US Army career ended. Are there any other people out there, any other women out there, brown minority women that are in the military? It doesn't have to be the US military. It could be any other military in the world. Please comment below. I would love for us to get to know one another. The 8 years that I spent in the military was such a huge stepping stone into who I've become as an adult. I was pretty resilient from my childhood and my chaotic upbringing, being first generation in a immigrant home, but the Army up-leveled me in so many different ways in a very systematic and organized and structured way that it laid the foundation on how I would behave as an adult and how I operated in this world. I learned in the Army to have structure, discipline, order, cleanliness, and a safe environment was my keys to success. To this day, I still fold my socks and shirts the way I did in boot camp. I was also very lucky to be in a female-dominant career field and have exceptional leaders around me. Even the terrible leaders I've learned so much from. I've always been very lucky in the sense that I've attracted great mentors to me, even when I didn't know what mentors were or what their roles were for me. The Army is where I learned the value of mentorship. And because of the amazing mentors that I had, the lessons that I learned, I was able to rank and gain experience so fast. I was able to make staff sergeant, which is E6, within 4 years and 4 months of my time in the military. I was distinguished honor grad in almost any academic school that I was sent to in the military, student first sergeant. I was always thrusted into these positions when I didn't want to be or when I was terrified of it, but because I had people around me that believed in me, even when I didn't believe in me. The Army was such a huge and pivoting experience in my life that it gave me confidence when I didn't have it. The Army surrounded me with people who believed in me before I believed in me. If something's scaring the shit out of you, it's probably something that is meant for you. Swallowing that fear and still doing the thing that scares the living crap out of you is probably the thing that's gonna change the projection of your life. And like I mentioned earlier, joining the military during wartime, leaving my family and not knowing anything else, being the first person in my generation to do something like that, as a woman, nothing more can be stacked against me other than everything that I just listed, and I am all the better for it. Thank you for listening to my story about the military and how much it's shaped me as who I am as a person today, 20 years later. Thank you for watching till the end. I love you, and you love me. I know it. Bye.